Get your pen and paper ready. It's time for another edition of The Flex. The absolute best fantasy football podcast in existence.
So I'll say this, not to say that I disagree, but...
I disagree.
Oh, my God.
Presented by Broadway Sports.
So once again, welcome back to another week. Welcome back to another round of advice. Maybe a life story or two. Welcome back to The Flex. Quick note before we start. Our stats are sometimes off on this show, and we apologize about that. We're not perfect, except for Zach. But check out our YouTube channel, Broadway Sports Media, for any and all corrections that JG will highlight with the brightest of lights on the channel and show what we got wrong and correct them there. I know, Zach, you're never wrong, but just in case, it's there.
Well, the good thing is that at least it corrects everything that you guys got wrong. That way our listeners know what is correct.
For the record, I'm not going to go back and correct predictions that we got wrong. I'm talking about when I said Tyler Lockett was the first receiver to have 90 targets with a perfect passer rating. It was actually 70 targets. My bad. But if you watch the YouTube
that's
version,
a lot of targets to mess up on. I'm glad I
still
am
the
most
most.
Who messed up.
The previous high was 18 or something like that. That might not be right. 13, 18, something like that. If you watch the YouTube of this, you will get the exact right number, though, on the screen. So go watch us, Broadway Sports Media.
My grammar or my mispronunciations of names or like mustard on hot dogs or anything like that?
No, more like when Greenlaw said that Tyler Lockett probably ranked below DK Metcalf in the top 100. That was not correct, which I showed in video form on the video.
Thank you for keeping us.
What about when he said Danny Amendola was 30-ish or whatever he said?
Whoa, I said that in the chat. I gave you the real number on here.
I have a feeling a lot of that chat is going to bleed into this show. That's awesome. So speaking of that, no, I don't think there's any anniversaries or birthdays this week, but I had a bit of a death anniversary this morning. I had to put a raccoon to rest. They got trapped in my trash can, so I'm wearing my Trash Pandas hat out of respect to that little guy. I'm glad he's not going to mess with my trash anymore, but I do feel sorry about that happening. It was not a pretty sight to wake up to.
So was he already dead, or did you strangle him with your bare hands?
Oh, no, I didn't touch that damn thing.
No.
It was my neighbor walked out and laughed at me because I had my arm in a trash bag like I was picking up my dog's poop, trying to get this thing in a trash bag just so I could get it out of my trash. It was not fun.
So what kind of burial did you do? Did you put him in a cardboard box and set it on fire?
I stuck him right back in the trash can and the city hauled him off.
It's not very respectful.
You should have put him on a boat and then shot an arrow Viking style.
Mm-hmm. Warrior send-off.
Yeah. It's almost I just had my garbage can down the creek and I could just put it on fire. No, I'm glad it's gone.
Opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm glad it's gone though. My wife is very happy with that the trash bandit is gone. So, but moving on to other things, there are some. Last week we talked about some non-offensive things and some great offenses. I guess we did talk about some offensive things by talking about the Redskins and some things.
Speaking of offensive,
Washington football team. I'm sorry. Hey,
yes, that's a correction. Put that in as a correction.
Hold on.
Greenlaw. I'm not gonna say what, but we are now officially the final two.
Yeah, I mean, you said offensive. I don't know what you meant by offensive, but Redskins, that's legitimately offensive.
Oh, there it is again. Wow. The football team. Which is, let me say this, someone
talked about how putrid the Washington football team would be. Let's get this back on track. And at least, I can't remember who it was, but one of their players even did it today. So, whatever. It's going to take some time to get used to after years and years and years with that offensive name. So, it's gone. Sorry for the slip up. Well, we did talk about the NFC last week, talking about the offenses that were worthy to draft from. When you're trying to pick or decide between players, you might hold into account which offenses are going to weigh higher than others, which ones are going to have better opportunities if you're picking between two receivers. That's really our goal. This week we're looking at the AFC. Now, we had a lot to talk about the NFC. I think we talked about damn near every team, if not every team.
Every team, I'm proud of it.
We're going to do it again.
Hell yeah.
Yay, even though I'm going to say we're not going to, and you idiots are going to give me 17 different teams each. Anyway, so this will be, JG, you've got an article coming out that'll accompany this soon. We'll really dive into your tiers, your reasonings. So, audience, make sure you go and argue with him in the comment sections about why he's wrong and about what he posted. Nice thumbs up. Love that. JG, while you're writing this article, was there anything that was surprising to you when you were comparing the NFC to the AFC?
Wow, thanks for that softball. I did. Yes, the AFC kind of sucks. I mean, it doesn't totally suck, and it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not like the conference you pick from matters in fantasy football at all. But I did think it was an interesting observation that like, if you look at the current ADP on Fantasy Pros right now, PPR ADP, of the top 16 players that are going, 11 of those guys are NFC players, and only 5 play for AFC teams. And Derrick Henry is the current highest drafted AFC player. So Titans with a juggernaut, with the number 1 highest player in the conference, the best fantasy player in the conference according to current ADP. Pretty cool.
I believe it. I mean, when you really think of the offenses in the NFC, the teams themselves may not be good, but the offenses for a fantasy purpose, and that's what I think we as a show really emphasize, is that fantasy, this is a fantasy show. So if we say that an offense is good, doesn't necessarily mean that we think that team is good. Case in point, someone called JG out in our power rankings thing, saying that we talked about the Arizona Cardinals and we had them all the way down the 20s. Well, yeah, because they're not a great team when you look at the other teams in their conference. They're still probably the 4th best team in their own conference. So yeah, division. The power rankings in the NFL are going to be, 4th in the division. See, but I never messed up. I caught it. So the so yeah, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, when you think of the teams, I think the teams as a whole are stronger in the AFC. I think your top level teams are, if you were to take the top 10, 12 teams of the NFL, I think the majority of them would be the AFC. But in fantasy, I'm all the way in NFC for most of these teams. There's quite a few teams in the AFC that I'm not drafting any players from, and I can't say that about the NFC.
The only time you're really going to consider like a team's record is when it gets down to getting close to playoff time, and these teams are starting to sit guys for their runs and giving them an extra bye week to rest up. It's the only time you're really concerned with the records. When you're drafting, you don't really care if they're going to go to the playoffs or not. You'll deal with that later. So you're not really drafting the team how they're going to do, because they could score 45 points, but they're giving up 52 points a game, which defensive coordinator needs to be fired. But my point there is they're still scoring a ton. They're getting you a lot of points for the fantasy, but they're losing a ton of ball games. So that really doesn't matter until some nuances later on. So that's why we're here. That's what we're talking about. Greenlaw, you haven't got to speak a whole lot tonight. I apologize about that so far. But go ahead and start us off with an offense in the AFC that you're actually looking forward to.
Well, I would like to take a moment to make a PSA about if you're playing in a league that has a championship game or whatever it is in week 17, leave that league. It's terrible. It's really dumb to play that way. So leave that league, join something else. Even if you don't know anybody in it, that's as bad as playing with IDPs. So don't do that at all. That's
how we feel about IDPs.
Seconded on that one. Week 17 championships are just stupid.
Ocean passes.
Boom.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Outlawed. Those types of leagues are hereby outlawed by this podcast.
You just got green lawyered.
Oh.
A new recurring segment on the Flex.
Yes.
So as far as AFC teams that, Ryan, you dropped the ball there. But,
sorry.
Thank you. As far as AFC teams that I like, you touched on it a little bit. There's a lot of top heaviness. So I'm going to skip down past the obvious Chiefs. I think the Titans could be up there. And I'm going to skip down to, I guess, the Browns. The Browns have a solid RB1. They have 2 viable fantasy wide receivers. They have a good tight end. I'm not a believer in Baker Mayfield, but there's enough pieces around him that I think that the pieces can be productive. I wouldn't go drafting Baker Mayfield, but the other guys around him I do like. So that would be an offense that I would want a piece of, any of the 4 guys. So Beckham, Landry, Hooper, or Nick Chubb.
You don't think that Kareem Hunt eats into Chubb's value at all?
Maybe, and he might be a guy that if you have Chubb, maybe you're handcuffing him with him as like a late season stash in case, injury or suspension, whatever it is, maybe as a backup. Because if you lose Chubb, I would imagine Kareem Hunt gets all of the all of the carries, all of the targets, everything that Chubb was getting, Hunt would be receiving those.
Yeah.
I kind of like the Browns offense. I think there's lots of value there once you get past Nick Chubb, right? I mean, obviously Nick Chubb's probably going to be like the top 3 or 4th. This is going to be a top 3 running back, or maybe even top 5. That's not bad value. It's just, it is what it is. What the hell just happened? You guys just switched in the middle of my video.
That's going to be a nightmare. Not really, but I am going to have to like cut my little titles and flop your Twitter handles, whatever.
But I tell you someone that's really flying under the radar, and Ryan is muted and talking for some reason. I don't know why he thinks that's going to work. But anyway.
I don't know why he continues to
yeah.
talk.
Can you put subtitles, JG?
I would try to read,
but
I try to read his lips and add subtitles to that.
But, do you hear me now?
Yeah. Odell, flying under the radar as a wide receiver 11. And we're talking about a guy that was like going in the first round is now going in the third round. And I understand why, sort of. But you sometimes just got to take into account everything that was happening on a team in 1 year and decide whether that is what that player is, or is he what his career has been, right? It was just a crap year in Cleveland. I mean, it was just bad. They had high expectations. Everybody bought in. Freddie Kitchens turned out to be a fluke. And now they got Kevin Stefanski. I think it's going to be a much more quarterback-friendly offense, which means that's a much more wide receiver-friendly offense for someone like Odell. And Jarvis Landry may not be ready at the start of the season, which means that there's more targets for Odell Beckham. Then you got Austin Hooper. He should be pretty good. I mean, I think that he'll keep up his level of play for the most part, but he's a tight end. The tight ends really don't matter in my head anymore as far as a mandatory thing. But I don't know what Jarvis Landry is going off the top of my head, but Kareem Hunt, like you said, Ryan, and brought up, pretty good value too. It's worth having him on there because they're going to get him involved. They got him involved towards the end of last year as well. So
Landry's currently wide receiver 29 going in the 6th round.
And don't sleep on Donovan Peoples-Jones. I'm just telling you, nobody's talking about him as a wide receiver, and he's a very gifted athletic wide receiver that got stuck with a crappy Shea Patterson up in Michigan. There is some potential there. I'm not saying that you draft, DPJ in, the 3rd round or anything, but if you're sitting there at the 16th and you already have your kicker in your defense, pick him up.
Yeah, I also think things like the report that came out this week about OBJ, which was, not true, but that sticks in the back of people's heads that, he wanted to sit out this season. How good is he going to be? Even though, again, that was not true. But he might drop even farther than what he's going at right now because of things like that, because things are brought up by the media that maybe isn't entirely true. And so I do think OBJ is going to be good value where you can draft him. And obviously I'm a little biased being an LSU guy, but I do think there's some value there. And I'm a guy who got burned by him a year ago.
Well, let me say this. Jarvis Landry, he's also apparently into steroids or meth, according to his latest picture. Yeah, or heroin. So I would steer clear of that because, that latest picture, he's going right for the track marks right there, buds.
Yep. He's getting it ready.
What an idiot. who just tells people that? Extremely stupid. And that plays into drafting maybe Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's a guy that, Landry gets calm down. For a steroid suspension or a heroin suspension, because I don't think they legalized heroin this offseason.
Speaking of injections, so what offense are you injecting into your lineup, JG?
Wait, really quick, I will give you an answer to that. That was a great segue, and I want to give you props for the segue.
Totally just shit all over it.
But I didn't get to say anything about the Browns, and all I want to say is that I totally agree, and that's crazy, and it's like, I think the Browns have a stigma because they're the Browns, and they had so much hype last year, and they let so many people down because they fell flat on their face, and that incredible, 43-14, I think, if you look at the final score beat down by the Titans in week 1 last year. I don't know if that's exactly right, but wow, the Titans killed them. and they never had a season because of that. So I do think that you can possibly get these guys at a bargain, like Zach said, OBJ. I mean, I'm buying the talent there. Talent plus value in this situation. It's not like he's not going to get targets. Give me all of that with the Browns offense.
The talent is still there. And he was, for the most part, I think, completely healthy last year. I mean, I'm not entirely sure.
Last year, I believe.
But how many games did he miss? Because usually he's missing a ton of games.
Not many.
Yeah, so
I expect a rebound for sure.
I think it's a rebound for this whole offense. I think that people just bought into the hype a little too early.
Yeah, the whole theme for me with that is the same way that I'm out on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens this year because of regression, I'm in on the Browns because of regression. These are still talented players.
Aggression.
Right, you guys call it aggression because that's cool.
Hashtag TD aggression.
Touchdown aggression for sure, but regression towards what should be their career averages. So Odell Beckham's career averages are going to be way higher than the season he produced last year. He's going to have a better year, therefore you can get him in a bargain. The next offense I'm into is the Steelers. Count me out on the running backs.
I was going to say, because you weren't in it with the Steelers earlier in the year.
I wasn't totally, but
yesterday or something.
I mean, if you just look back at the history when Ben Roethlisberger plays quarterback for the Steelers, that's true, a few days ago. It took me a second. When you look at when Ben Roethlisberger is their quarterback, this offense is always good. They just are always good. And I know they had a down year last year, but that's because they had a lot of quarterback trouble. And I don't think James Conner is either the Steelers don't think he's capable of staying healthy or he's not capable of staying healthy. So either he's going to be splitting carries this year so that the Steelers can try to keep him healthy, or he's going to be the lead back and get hurt again. So I'm out on the running back situation because I just don't have any confidence in what the split will be. But one player I'm trying to draft on every single team. I like Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's due for a bounce back, the same reason that Odell is. But I am all in on Diontae Bisi Johnson.
Well, what is this middle name that you just did?
That's his nickname, BC Johnson. I don't know
what's BC stand for.
No, it's BISI. I have no idea what it means or why. That's what he goes by. Google it.
BC powder, he cures your headaches on offense.
Because of that nickname, I might be out on him.
Yeah, I'm out.
Diontae Johnson had a quietly very productive rookie year for a third-round pick, playing with Mason Rudolph and whoever the hell else was out there. And right now, he's going wide receiver 38th. That's like 8th or 9th round, depending on if it's a 10-team or 12-team league. I am all in on this guy. Breakout candidate.
Hold on. There is a BC Johnson with BISI Johnson with the Minnesota Vikings who's a wide receiver. I think you have these guys mixed as the same person. Because I am looking on my screen as who should I start? BC Johnson, BISI, or Diontae Johnson? One's a wide receiver for the Vikings. The other one is the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
Correction.
Heavy. I want to see some heavy YouTube corrections across your entire.
I would like to see BC Johnson's picture up in the corner at some point and just the rest of the episode.
All right.
Like the Scarlet Letter.
Look, there's definitely a chance that I was totally off when I said that. So I'm glad you Googled it.
Well, hopefully you won't have to.
Because I was looking to see what BC meant. That's just a random. I could understand if it's BC, like T.Y. Hilton. That's a nickname, right?
But isn't it at least
his father's name? T.Y.
somewhat
Hilton.
Vindicating for me that he exists, that's a guy? Because you guys were like, that can't be a guy's name.
No, we were wondering about his nickname. So no, don't try. Hey,
the point is, I'm all in on Diontae Johnson. Give me all the shares of Diontae Johnson on every fantasy team in every fantasy league I'm in. Boom.
Where I agree with you about being out on the running back and on the receivers, I've always been high on Juju Smith-Schuster back in the days when we did some draft analysis of when he was coming out of USC. I was very high on him. I think I had him ranked that year as my number 3 receiver coming out, which I caught some flack on. But I loved his work ethic. I loved his routes. I loved his hands. And someone said, well, he had the most drops this year. I was like, we had a broken hand his senior year. So it didn't surprise me that he caught on as well, at least for me. So I really look forward to him. He had a down year, combination of the number 1 guy for the first time in his career, and he didn't have the franchise quarterback there. That's my only concern, though, is because we've got this pocket of quarterbacks that have been good for so long. They're all entering the twilight of their careers at respective levels between Drew Brees and some other guys. And you just wonder when's it going to be it for Roethlisberger and those guys? Is this it? He's had some injury prone. Can he stay healthy? Will he be at the same level? So that's my only concern with the Steelers offense when we're talking about, especially the receivers, where I agree with you, but I've got some concerns if Roethlisberger can stay healthy, if he's back, and if he's going to produce at the same levels he was before the injury.
I think I would drop in your article, because we got a special sneak peek on your article, by the way, that will be on BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Free trial is going on right now, and then you can see all kinds of stuff that you're going to be missing out on if you don't pay that $10 a month. I mean, it's just $9.99, technically $10. $100 if you pay for the whole year. I mean, go ahead and just pay that $100 and be done with it. Anyway, BroadwaySportsMedia.com. BroadwaySportsMedia.com.
So proud of you.
Anyway,
Zach, did you know you and Lebowski both said that Broadway is trash on your latest F Words podcast? Now you were talking about the street.
Yeah.
But like, you got to watch that shit.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying Broadway the street is trash. Broadway Sports Media. See, I always call us Broadway Sports or Broadway Sports Media. So let's just clear the air here.
Broadway, the physical location, is a petri dish of
if you have a Kid Rock bar on your street, you're automatically trash. Anyway.
Named our website after
where was I? What was I even talking about? The Steelers. So I would take the Steelers down a notch, and it's not because of lack of talent. I think they have the talent. It's a lack of confidence, and it's a lack of confidence in that Big Ben is 100% healthy and going to be 100% old Big Ben. And we've seen that Juju desperately needs Big Ben to be fantasy relevant, right?
Right.
I do like Diontae Johnson no matter who is behind quarterback, and I think that's real important. And old Dick Fingers is over there. Eric Ebron.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm out on Eric Ebron. If it ain't Andrew Luck, Eric Ebron ain't worth a shit. And I will say this as well. I am the opposite on James Conner. He's RB 21 right now. That's really cheap. And he's technically, in my opinion, one of the few definitions of a workhorse running back, because I know you're big into Anthony McFarland, JG, and they may try to use him, but I'm
not
more
super big. Well,
yeah, but I mean, you think he's going to eat into it? Eat into James Conner. But I don't think that's the case. I think James Conner will get the bulk of the carries that matter. I think he's highly motivated. So I think there's a lot of question marks around every player except for Diontae Johnson. Long story short.
I was with you, Zach, until you got to Eric Ebron. I don't love him, but Vance McDonald was pretty productive with the Steelers.
Heath Miller was productive for years.
I think he's an upgrade.
Heath Miller hasn't been relevant since 2012. I mean,
well, yeah, because he's not been a good tight end. I'm just saying, like Ben Roethlisberger.
Eric Ebron historically is not a good tight end, guys. Let's not act like that.
It depends how the Steelers use him. I'm not saying I'm all in on Eric Ebron, and personally, I'm trying to get Jonnu Smith in every league. But if I miss out on him and I miss out on the top tight ends, and I'm looking for like those streaming options, Eric Ebron is at the top of my list for a guy I'm possibly.
Would you rather have Eric Ebron or Will Dissly? Because Eric Ebron is going way higher.
Will Dissly.
I don't think Will Dissly's going to be ready for week one. The guy tore his Achilles in the middle of last season.
He's a fast healer. Everyone's been saying it.
Okay. Yeah, he told me.
Inside scoop right there, guys.
Sure, all right.
And I don't agree on James Conner either, because I got burned last year and I had to roster 3 Steelers running backs because all of them were either injured at the same time or they were rotating. James Conner's bones are made of glass or something, porcelain. I'm not sure, but it's not a good situation from him health-wise. So I would stay away from that, but I do understand if you think there's value if you've never been burned by him before.
And I also think that what you said is totally true, Zach. Like, there is a lot of risk in here in that Big Ben might not make it through the season, and if he doesn't, then Juju's probably not a good bet to produce a lot. So that's why I like Diontae Johnson, because at the value right now, at the price you can draft him at, I think if something does happen to Big Ben, you're not screwed. Like, if Diontae Johnson pops as a wide receiver 2 or better, then you're in great shape, because you can get him at wide receiver like 38 right now. So
yeah, there's a lot of other wide receivers around that Juju range that I would rather take before him because he's still going wide
like
receiver
Odell.
13. Yeah, and Odell's 11, Thielen is 12, and then you have Juju. And I still think that's a little too high for the risk of Big Ben not being there because he's proven he's only a wide receiver 1 with the quarterback behind center.
But do we know that Juju's a wide receiver 1 guy
I don't
even
think
with
he is.
Big Ben because we haven't seen it without Antonio Brown?
I agree, but I do think that with James Washington and Diontae Johnson there to take some pressure off him in the passing game, with Eric Ebron coming in and probably playing mostly like a big slot type of role, I think that Juju will be able to produce.
Huge drop-off in talent between Antonio Brown and James Washington.
True, Juju Smith-Schuster is still a talented player in his own right.
No, I totally agree. I'm just not sure I'm comfortable drafting him where he's being drafted, given that we don't know if Big Ben can stay healthy and we don't know if he can be a wide receiver 1, even with Big Ben, because he hasn't been one so far.
Yeah. Well, I will say this: when Big Ben started the season, Juju Smith did go 6 for 8 for 78 yards and 5 for 8 for 84. He just never found the end zone. So, I mean, that should go up, but he still was a productive wide receiver up until that, week 3.
Well, I'll probably be the one that drafts him, and y'all can all make fun of me on draft day for it because I like Juju and I have faith.
Just draft James Conner, please.
Yeah.
I experienced that last year too. I'm staying away from it. So, Zach, I know we've talked about a few high-powered offenses. Is there any others out there that are worth discussing from your point of view?
Yeah, we got to talk about the Bills. They're way too low on Justin's list. And here's the thing. Josh Allen went from an RB21
huh?
Sorry. Yeah. QB21.
No, you nailed it the first time.
Yeah, that's true too.
Mistake.
He went from a QB21 to as soon as he got weapons this year. So from 2018, 2019, jumped all the way up to QB6. And there's a reason for that. They got John Brown, they got Cole Beasley, right? And then they picked up Devin Singletary, which I'll talk about in a minute. But those guys really turned around this offense and really helped Josh Allen out. And now they got Stephon Diggs. So now they have the wide receiver 20, wide receiver 34, and wide receiver 24 of 2019 coming into 2020. And I think that it's actually going to work out for Josh Allen and all these guys. And it's also going to open up stuff for Devin Singletary, who, when he started, was a legit RB1, RB2. Now, when he didn't start, he was definitely flex material. Anyway.
The wheel again.
So late. Anyway, I think Devin Singletary, he ended the year
Can't
from
hear
11.
Anyone?
Week 11 through week 16. He ended as RB20 those weeks. He was RB20 for those weeks. That's still RB2, and he's going as an RB21 right now. I mean, it's good value for Devin Singletary, in my opinion. And then on top of that, I don't know. I'm just looking at him like Zack Moss is good. Josh Allen is good. Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox will probably get better. He was a very underrated tight end last year. Cole Beasley got 5 red zone touchdowns. I mean, he's got the weapons now with Stephon Diggs.
Do you think Brown and Diggs are viable fantasy wide receivers? Or do they throw enough would be my question.
Yeah, I think they will. I think that Brian will – Brian – I don't know why I could not remember that. Brian Dable will be he's got a knack for maximizing the talent, whatever's on his team, and he's going to maximize all this, and he's going to put Josh Allen in the best situation to succeed. Now, listen, we all know Josh Allen by every other metric in real life is not a good quarterback, right? But he's a damn good fantasy quarterback, and I think that will help all these other players and their value as a whole on this team.
He did have the highlight of the year, apparently, according to Twitter votes. So
when he jumped over to someone,
true.
Yeah, he jumped over someone for like a 10-yard gain, and anyway.
He also had one of the best plays in playoff history where he was running down the field and he threw the ball to. I think people are still wondering who he threw the ball to, but he threw it against the Texans.
The Texans. Can I set everybody straight here with that nonsense that Zach just spilled out?
It's not any nonsense.
All right. First of all, the Bills are not going to throw the ball enough to have 2 productive receivers. So it's either Stephon Diggs or John Brown. And I'm not saying Stephon Diggs is not going to have a good year. And I'm not saying that Josh Allen won't be a fringe QB1. But let's put some context on that QB6 number, if you don't mind. So he may have been QB6 last year by total points per game, but if you sort it by average points per game, such as which would add Tannehill, who didn't start until week 7, Patrick Mahomes, who missed 3 games in the middle of the year, Matthew Stafford, who was on pace for a great year when he got hurt in week 8, all those guys, plus a couple others, would have finished ahead of Allen. So his points per game average for last year, QB 11. Now, the biggest boost for Josh Allen as a fantasy quarterback is his running ability. And I definitely think that he'll be able to contribute and have a pretty decent weekly floor because he'll rush for a handful of yards every single week and boost his point totals that way. But the reason he finished so high last year as a quarterback is because he found the end zone. And he managed to rush for 8 rushing touchdowns in 2018, which is pretty high for a quarterback. Last year he actually had more than that. He had 9 rushing touchdowns. But what's interesting to me is that 7 of those came from inside the 10-yard line, and 5 of those came from inside the 5-yard line. So I just did some math, and I know this isn't really a fair thing to do, but just for the sake of argument, I said, what would Josh Allen have finished as a quarterback if he'd only finished with 4 rushing touchdowns, which is still a pretty decent number for a quarterback. And he would have dropped from quarterback 13 in overall points to quarterback 19 in overall points. He would have dropped from quarterback 6 to quarterback 13 in overall points, and from quarterback 11 to quarterback 19 in average points per game if you just take away 5 rushing touchdowns. That's a lot to take away, I agree. But looking at their running backs on the roster now, you mentioned Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary had 3 carries inside the 10-yard line all of last season. The Bills drafted Zack Moss. He is a big bruising back. Zack Moss is the one guy on the Buffalo Bills that I actually want. What I'm worried about is that those 7 touchdowns that Josh Allen had from inside the 10-yard line, where Devin Singletary was not carrying the ball, not even attempting. He had 3 attempts, not touchdowns, rushing attempts total the whole season. If those carries that Josh Allen carried in the end zone go to Zack Moss, Josh Allen's fantasy value plummets to fringe QB2 status. I still think he'll end up fringe QB1 because I think he will see a boost in passing stats with the addition of a great receiver like Stephon Diggs. But I just don't have confidence. I don't feel good about this Bills offense. Like, overall, this Bills offense was 24th in offensive points per drive last year, 24th in yards per drive. The more points and yards you produce, the better your fantasy offense is for the players in it, obviously. The Bills are a team that want to win by playing really solid defense and mistake-free offense, control the ball, control the pace of the game, slow things down, run the ball. I am out on the Bills offense from a fantasy standpoint. Yeah, sorry, this is long, but
that's a frustrating offense to watch too. And what concerns me about their receivers, and this may change with Diggs, I don't know, but I mean, Josh Allen had 8 games last year where he had 0 passing scores. 8. That's half the games. That's concerning for me from that point, based on how they run their offense. So I don't have a whole lot of confidence that those trends are going to change a ton. He's all of a sudden going to be lighting up for 1 to 2 touchdowns a game or every other game. I don't see it.
So
now Zack Moss is going. Sorry, go ahead, guys. I talked a lot.
I was just going to say something to watch there too is Stephon Diggs didn't handle the situation in Minnesota very well with Kirk Cousins. How is he going to handle the situation with Josh Allen, who's a much worse real life quarterback than Kirk Cousins is? Josh Allen overthrows people all the time.
I think that it will be fine, and here's why. I think it was more of a frustration with the team as a whole. I don't think it was just Kirk Cousins, right?
Does he have the same offensive coordinator now?
No. We just talked about Brian Dable.
Oh, sorry. I'm super high. Confused. Yeah. Excuse me.
Anyway, I don't think it will be a problem because I think you've seen people just want to get out of frustrating situations. Jalen Ramsey wanted to get out of the Jaguars, and he was a shithead at the Jacksonville, and then he was fine with the Rams, besides that one little spat out in the locker room. But he was fine. I mean, he's okay. I think the same thing's going to happen with Stephon Diggs. He just wanted away from Minnesota. Mike Zimmer does not want to run an offense that suits Stephon Diggs, right? And I do think that you're going to see a change in the offensive philosophy in Buffalo. But let me say this about Devin Singletary. Devin Singletary may have only had 3 attempts, but he scored a touchdown on 33.3% of those attempts. So if we extrapolated those stats and he got 20, or let's do 21 attempts in the red zone.
21? Hang on. I got to look up red zone carries.
If he would have got 21 attempts in the red zone, he would have had 7 touchdowns. So how's that for some math?
Also, if he had 100 attempts, he would have had 33.3 touchdowns, which would win you your league most likely.
If he had 21 attempts, he would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th in the league, tied with Josh Jacobs. I mean,
which he could end up being now that Frank Gore's out of there.
Now that Zack Moss is going to be the goal line back. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind. That's why I'm in on Zack Moss, out on every other Bill. No thank you for a passing offense that is captained by Josh Allen, and no thank you for a Bills team that is going to give the ball to Zack Moss.
You say that, but then John Brown got 1,000 yards and like 7 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, Stephon Diggs might end up being okay, but I think he's going to be drafted too high because he's the only receiver in Buffalo.
He may be. He may be drafted too high, and that seems to be the case with Stephon Diggs regardless. But you're talking about overall confidence, not overall value, right? I mean, your overall confidence in this offense.
It's the Alabama kid who's there.
Anyway, that overall confidence should be higher. I think the confidence in this team to be fantasy relevant.
Oh. I swear there's somebody else who's a receiver in Buffalo.
Oh, it's Bisi Johnson.
Oh, no. Well, Greenlaw, do you have any you want to talk into these guys? I don't know if you've been able to talk with these two going off.
No, I think I lean more on the side of JG. I mean, maybe it's that we spend some time at the Life Store together. I don't know what it is, but I do agree with him.
Selling you some faulty products.
This account's not that good, Greenlaw. Come on now.
He's not a good – Josh Allen's not a good quarterback. And
he's a good fantasy quarterback. We just talked about that.
He was at least last year, but
who's I thinking of?
I just don't see it as far as – the 2 wide receivers being good options in that offense. I would pick Diggs, I think, out of the 2 of them, but not where he's going to be drafted because he's a name and people are going to draft a name much higher than he's actually rated.
Don't sleep on Cole Beasley, though. I think that is someone that you could definitely get and start in your flex later on down the road. Boom!
Have you been listening to his rap
purposely
album
just to help him? What?
I think Cole Beasley has a rap album. Have you been listening to that?
Yeah, what is it called? Like Pigeon Cole or something like that?
I don't know. I wouldn't touch Cole Beasley in fantasy.
I would have called it.
I wouldn't, but someone else should.
Yeah. Draft Cole Beasley very high.
Yeah. Everybody else draft Cole Beasley. I'm not, but
James,
you can.
Make sure you guys tell this to James because he'll do it.
Yes.
Yeah,
please do.
Delaney Walker, tight end in round 2, and Cole Beasley following that up in round 3.
How are you going to get through all 16 teams?
I don't know. We're spending 50 minutes on each.
Round.
We did way too long on the Bills and all
just
that.
Just real quick, I was talking about Robert Foster. I knew there was a kid there that he actually has some spots there. But anyway, moving on to something else. Real quick, all 3 of you nod your head real quick. You got me?
Yeah.
Any other offenses
this
you
isn't going to be for audio.
Watch us on YouTube.
Whatever.
YouTube is way better.
I want the verbal confirmation for me right now. I don't care about the video. This is for me. Any other offenses, real quick, you want to touch on? Greenlaw, start with you again.
Maybe the Bengals. There's a couple guys I like from there. Mixon. I like Burrow. I like Tyler Boyd, and I might like Higgins as a stash play.
Okay,
I think AJ Green's too high, but that's about my only complaint with the Bengals. We already know. Did that episode air where we talked about the Bengals?
It didn't.
AJ Green. We talked about AJ Green.
Oh, okay.
The franchise tag. We talked about AJ Green.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Justin said that Joe Burrow would like spend 5 weeks in single-digit points or something.
4
like that
points
crazy.
or less. He said
4 points or less.
Which
yeah, like
is
give me
crap.
a fucking break.
Exaggerating to make a point.
Well, it's on the
You
Broadway.
look pretty
bets.
serious.
We bricked it. Whatever.
No, we didn't.
Remind me of a
that.
former
Put it in
scout.
stone.
Put it on the
only-
brick.
The only brick we have right now is, I think, the stupid one we made between Jamichael Hasty and Salvin Ahmad. Which I'm not
Anyway.
going to win, by the way. I'm definitely not
I'm all
going
in
to
on
win.
the Bengals. Maybe if Mixon's there in the second round, I think that's the appropriate value for Mixon. I know he's going in the first round in some drafts. Do not take him in the first. I think second's where your value's at. But everybody else, I mean, go crazy. Go nuts.
I will say
on,
Mixon
fam.
Mixon had a great close to the season, so I could see the argument for taking him high, but personally I just like other running backs better, and if it's not a running back, I like some other receivers better. So yeah, I agree, second round guy for me. This offense to me is like, it could either be a super gold mine of value, or it could just be a bunch of wasted investments. So, I mean, I'm kind of in the mindset of just like picking Bengals players where they fall, where they're going, because they could pop to be pretty dang good.
Yeah.
Especially
I
if you
forget John
have
Ross
a couple
is there,
set
too.
guys. Well,
All right, you liars. All right, you
might
liars.
explode too.
Any thoughts on the? We didn't cover the Ravens at all. Any thoughts there?
Yeah, they should be one tier up. And I think it's ridiculous that they're not one tier up.
Hollywood Brown in the 6th round?
No, one tier in your stupid
I know,
rankings
but like
on your article.
my rankings tier is based on comp. Like the
I
top
don't like
tier
the
is
value. Let's talk confidence. The
The
value
top
doesn't
tier-
fit what I'm trying to talk about.
the top tier is for a team that has a player that I want at every single position. I do not want the running backs, and I don't really want the receivers
You know
on
what,
the
J.K.
Ravens.
Dobbins?
I mean, J.K.
No.
Dobbins might be a pretty interesting stash, but like at the end of the day, he's not going to supplant Ingram and Edwards for enough carries to be fantasy relevant.
I'm pretty sure he's going to replace Edwards because Gus
He
Edwards
could
opted
replace
out.
Edwards, but was Gus? Oh, really? Well, okay.
Correction.
Was
I'm
Gus
pretty sure he did.
Edwards a fantasy starter though? Because if you just give those carries to Dobbins next year, like he's not going to be a fantasy starter. And
He wasn't
the
a
Ravens,
week-to-week guy.
right? He was only okay if Mark Ingram was missing the game. And the other thing is the Ravens ran 80% of their plays last year with a lead. That's insane. That allows the running backs to run the ball so much more. So I don't think Lamar Jackson runs for as many yards. I don't think the running backs run for as many yards. I mean, the
Gus
whole
signed
offense.
his Tinder. He didn't opt out. I knew he was in the news for something.
Aha!
There you go.
Boom! Correction on
But I
you,
checked.
bitch.
I checked.
Good. Well,
myself.
the point is, there's 3 guys up there that are all going to be splitting carries, so don't give me any of them.
I do think Dobbins is a good dynasty play. Long term, I think he's a good play. If you're in a dynasty league or you're in a very deep keeper league, he's someone to pick up that you can keep down the road. But I don't think he's a play for redraft leagues.
Dobbins is a 3-down running back. If you're not drafting him, you're going to make a huge mistake, and he
Like,
will
I'm not-
end up.
I'm not arguing how good he is as a player. It's just Mark Ingram is still
Right.
a guy that has seniority on the roster who's going to play over him, especially
Seniority.
in a COVID shortened season, off season, where J.K. Dobbins hasn't even been on the field with the freaking team yet.
But all you tell a running back is which hole to run into on these plays. It's not like he really has to know a lot.
We'll see.
Back me
I
up
mean,
there, Ryan. You're an offensive line coach.
It's. I will say that I'm more worried if an offensive lineman misses a lot of the preseason stuff. So that's why I'm glad that Isaiah Wilson is not missing a whole lot coming off the COVID list and everything like that.
That's relevant.
So, yeah, but anyway, I'm just trying to sort of back Zach up here, but I don't really agree. But yes, running back isn't as important as some other positions because it is
The
mostly-
Broncos, though.
Their pass protections, if
Too
they don't
low.
earn those, they won't stay on the field.
Yeah,
The
Broncos are
Broncos,
too
though.
low.
The Broncos are a team to me that is exactly like the Bengals in that draft every piece and hope that they pop, but I'm not actually confident that they will. I'm like, they're going at a great value because they haven't been good yet, and we're projecting that they become good. And if they do, then they're all great value. The same thing with all the Bengals players. So, like, I don't necessarily have a ton of confidence, but I want Cortland Sutton. I want the other great receiver that they just drafted, Jerry Judy. I want Noah Fant. I might want Drew Lock. I'm not touching the running backs, but I definitely
I
want
agree with
Cortland
you.
Sutton.
The difference between the Bengals and the Broncos to me is that I have all the confidence in the world in Joe Burrow and I have zero confidence
why.
in Drew Lock. like zero confidence in Drew Lock. So
I mean, Drew Lock was a good starter at the end of the year last year. Good fantasy
That team
quarterback.
loves him.
And all they did was just give him more weapons. I mean, that's, to me, I think the biggest thing about Drew Lock. Am I really looking to draft Drew Lock? Nah, he's not really on my radar. I sometimes often forget him. But Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. I mean, Philip Lindsay still somehow gets 1,000 yards rushing, even though they totally disrespect him. I mean, there's some good value in that offense as a whole.
And we all know that Elway does a great job of developing quarterbacks out there.
He's got a track record. We should trust him for sure.
I will say, though, that he did pick up towards the end of the season. That team really does like the players, I mean, seem to like Drew Lock quite a bit. And that can go a long way in a locker room. So we'll see what happens there. But let's move on since we've gotten our shots in with some teams. What are some other
Wait. Sorry. One last team that I actually like. And I don't – sorry, this will be really quick. I don't like the Texans. I think the offense is going to be trash. I don't think that any of the running backs are worth drafting. Deshaun Watson's great, but he's probably going to be overdrafted just because he's the top quarterback, and they all get overdrafted.
We spent a whole other episode talking about the Texans.
Did we?
We talked about somebody, right?
We talked about Brandon Cooks, maybe.
We talked about Brandon Cooks.
You know what? Yes, because I'm using it. Let's move on.
Wait. I gotta say this. This is my must-draft player of every fantasy league, more than any player in any draft. Will Fuller. Will Fuller is being drafted too late. Will Fuller is the only wide receiver one. I'm not saying he's going to play 16 games, and he's not necessarily going to play 16 games.
He's
and
not
even
going
if
to.
I don't care, the games he does play,
he will not play 16 games.
don't care. Fantasy football is a weekly game. You're trying to win week to week. The weeks he does play, he's going to score 20 points in 80% of them.
So
every once
he's
in a while.
the Jordan Reed of wide receivers. Basically,
I think he will.
When Jordan Reed was healthy, you always play Jordan Reed.
Yeah.
But the only problem was he was healthy 4 out of 16 games a year.
Well, I mean, I think Will Fuller is more likely to miss 4 out of 16 games than be healthy to 4 out of 16. And I think he is pretty likely to miss 4 out of 16 games. But even if he does, as long as he's not missing the fantasy playoffs, I'm taking the chance that he will miss the fantasy playoffs based on where he's going in drafts right now. Will Fuller is a league-winning player because the weeks he does play with no DeAndre Hopkins, he and Deshaun Watson have a connection. Those plays, there was a play last
They
year
don't
where
have
Deshaun
to
Watson,
double DeAndre now. They can do whatever they want to Will Fuller.
And I
They're
will
gonna
say
have to
this.
double
I mean,
somebody.
Will Fuller, I get it. I get what you're trying to say. If he's healthy, you could start him in the flex.
I'm not paying attention to y'all right now because y'all.
Okay.
Ryan is
I'm just
turning
saying,
into a puddle because of
But
JG.
don't act like
Fuller
Will
take.
Fuller's being disrespected by his ADP. He is what is he has earned his low ADP because he can't stay healthy, and that's important. It's
I
important.
think it's fairly important, but I think his ADP is based on where he's going to finish the overall season in total points, and you're not going for total points in fantasy. You're trying to win on a week-to-week basis. The
You would
weeks
know
he
that
To
plays,
better
me,
than
that's
anybody,
more advice for DFS. Like,
I
Will
mean,
Fuller
I'm
when he's healthy
rostering Will.
DFS.
I'm going to roster Will Fuller on every team I can this year. And
How high are you drafting him?
well, I mean, he's going in the 8th round right now, so I'm going to draft him in the 7th or 8th round in every league and put him on my
But to
bench.
me, like that's
I mean,
he's start him.
To me, he's a starter that I'm going to be able to draft on my bench. And when he's hurt, he'll stay on my bench. And every other week, he's going to be in my starting lineup, and I'm going to draft him. And when I hit that button, he's going to auto slot in on my bench because he's going to be like my wide receiver 3 or 4 because he's going in the 7th or 8th round.
All right.
All right, we'll see if you.
I can see why you don't make the championships.
So
There's no one else to throw to.
Am I allowed to move the show along so that at some point in time we can not record
All
2
right,
hours?
let's talk about the shitty teams.
Let's do it. Who you want to talk
right.
about?
The shitty teams. Who are we?
right.
What are the offenses you want to stay away from? Please
Oh,
name
I can
some
list
players.
them.
Please tell me you're not
Yeah.
going to spend a ton of time on these guys. Because
Oh
there's
yeah,
not a
we are
whole
going to
lot
spend.
of
I love trash and bad teams.
Yeah,
There's
I'm
nothing
gonna.
like
I could run through 6 of them, or we could spend 20 minutes on each. What do you want to do?
Patriots,
Easy.
Jaguars,
Ugh.
Colts,
The Jets.
Jets.
Dolphins.
Oh
Dolphins.
God, it just keeps getting
Raiders.
worse. No, there's Raiders have some viable players.
Darren Waller's the only one.
Jacobs,
No.
Josh Jacobs,
Oh, sorry, you're right.
and then I would say Tyrell Williams. He's like the Will Fuller of the Texans. When he's healthy,
He
he's
is.
actually pretty good.
Yeah, but the difference is Deshaun Watson versus the other number 4, or
Well, Derek Carr was not a bad fantasy quarterback last year, so it's all about fantasy.
I'm out on Tyrell Williams. As Mike calls him,
Carr now though. So
is it not Tyrell?
As Mike calls him, is it Tyrell?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out on him though. As Mike calls him, Tall Taywan Taylor. No, thank you.
No, he's not.
Yeah,
Let
Mike
me say
would
this.
know
He's definitely
who's
not.
Tall Taywan Taylor.
Mike is obsessed.
I will say I told Zach last year to start Tyrell Williams in the 1 week, and it went really well for him. So you should draft him.
It was so great.
And start him every week.
I will say this: Tyrell Williams was on like a touchdown hot streak with Derek Carr behind center,
which is like a not sustainable thing to me. Like,
okay, draft Will Fuller.
Well, okay, hold on. To JG's point though, if you can find that guy, and those are the gems that I hope the show can produce throughout the year. That if you can find that guy that's going to give you a solid 3 weeks, and that's all you use him for, and then you throw him back into the free agent pool, and he doesn't score another point the rest of the year, what do you care? You got 3 great weeks out of him.
Right, but I'm finding the Chris Godwins, who I drafted on every team last year, and the Lamar Jacksons, who I tried to draft on every team and only missed him in the league that Mike drafted him in, and the Mark Andrews, who I drafted on every team last year. Like, I'm finding those guys every year, and you guys are laughing at me now because if they were being valued,
diamond in the rough taking Lamar Jackson this year.
What put it in stone?
I'm talking about last
year. Make around Will Fuller, because
I bet Will Fuller finishes as a wide receiver 2. No-brainer wide receiver 2, so wide receiver 15.
So that'd be top 24, right, in a 12-team league.
And what was he last year?
He was, I don't know, 30, I think, but he missed.
He was hurt half the year, which is the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
I think he was like wide receiver 30 last year. Yeah, I mean, I would be betting on him to stay healthy. I mean, I think he only averaged like wide receiver 18 or something like that, and I expected that to actually be higher when I sorted by average. But
he finished as wide receiver 89 last year.
What?
89?
Yeah. That can't be right.
Oh, sorry. That was weeks 9 through 17. That would make a lot of sense. Hey, that's still that is still factually correct. He finished wide receiver 53. So.
Zach is going to weasel his way into
which is worse than Danny Amendola.
That is
Zach is literally making a statement as he's checking himself by typing up, and then so he can correct himself before he gets done talking, so that we can't call him out on it.
That's true.
Bravo, bravo.
JG, I'll make that bet with you. He will not finish higher than wide receiver 24.
Put it in a brick.
Put it in a brick. Brick shot.
That's a brick, baby. Brick.
Oh, I got to find a cash money sound for that when y'all make these stupid bets.
And no Colts players, right? We're not drafting any Colts players.
Nope.
No. I'm not taking a Colt, a Jag, a Dolphin, or a Jet. Le'Veon Bell, your time's done.
Is Jonathan Taylor still going in the third? I'm not taking a Patriot. Fuck that.
I mean, I think that Cam Newton might end up being okay, but I'm not drafting him.
Now with Jarrett Stidham getting all the starts.
Hold on.
You're right. I should bump the Patriots down. By the time this article comes out, Patriots will be in avoid these teams entirely.
So not that I want to, because I always love when we can shit on the Colts, but it's just if we've been talking about a lot of guys tonight with the caveat of if they stay healthy. And if T.Y. Hilton stays healthy and Phillip Rivers somehow is rejuvenated by going to that offense, don't you think he's got some kind of value that you want to at least keep tabs on if everybody else off your list is gone?
You talk about people that I've been burned by. Thaddeus Youngton Hilton is one of them. I don't know if that's what TY stands for. I forgot. I wrote about it in the in my article about the AFC South.
Are you sure it's not BC?
I'm out. Fuck the Colts.
Yeah, TY is looking at player 53 overall right now, which is way too high for him.
And then Jonathan Taylor is going even higher at number 46 overall right now. And now he's dropped one full round. But still, no Jonathan Taylor. That's got to be due to we don't know who the back is going to be, right? Yeah. Well, he was third round.
That's the point why I have no confidence. Yeah. Here's the thing. The Colts are probably going to be a pretty good offense. They have a great offensive line. They're going to have a good running game. So they're going to have a productive offense. My point is they're not going to have any productive single fantasy starters. Like, I'm not in on Phillip Rivers. I think he's over the hill. I watched every throw Phillip Rivers made last year, and I was not impressed. For that reason, I'm not in on the wide receivers. I think that having no offseason to work out with T.Y. Hilton, who is going to mostly be a downfield guy, not having a chance to get that timing down is going to be huge. Michael Pittman Jr. is a rookie who doesn't have a chance to work in this season because of COVID, this offseason with the team. That's huge for his development. And who the heck even are the other receivers? Like Chester Rogers and people that used to be Zach Pascal, who used to be on the Titans practice squad. Like, these guys, they're not fantasy relevant at all. And then you guys talked about the running backs already. I thought Jonathan Taylor might be a guy like way early in the year. I thought he might be like a cool value, sneaky rookie pickup, but he's going so high in drafts, it's like totally not worth it. Because Marlon Mack's going to get first shot at being the RB1. So why the heck would you draft Jonathan Taylor that high?
And Jonathan Taylor's a fumble machine.
Yes,
and
he is.
there's
So
nothing that gets a
either
rookie
one.
benched quicker than a fumble lost. And he lost a majority of the fumbles that he had.
Sounds like this
and
show has
T.Y.
been
Hilton's
burned.
about to be 31.
I'm just not
into
the
it.
only guy, Trey Burton, signed in the offseason. He was with Frank Reich when they won a Super Bowl in Philly. I don't think that he's going to be a great fantasy producer because Jack Doyle is still there, and he's pretty good too. So I think those two guys are just going to eat up each other's production, and then you're not.
I'm with you on that.
So none of them. No Colts. No, thank you.
One running theme on this show is how bad this show has been burned by running back by committee situations and how far we all want to stay away from it. Because I think we all have a story so far about the hatred we have for the situation.
That's why it's important to get a stud like Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
Yep.
Can we talk about where we are today? I mean, in 2015, the Titans trios were like Marcus Mariota, who nobody wanted to draft, Dorial Green-Beckham, Antonio Andrews, and Delaney Walker was the only fantasy relevant player.
We already talked about this on the Titans one, so
I'm
people
just
should
saying,
go back and listen to the one
Can
with
he
Ryan
not be
Tannehill.
proud? Can he not
I'm
be
just
proud?
saying, compared to the AFC South, where the Titans rank, this really stood out to me in my tiers. I have the Jags and the Colts in my bottom tier, and the Texans in my 5 out of 10 rating tier, only because Will Fuller is a must draft to me, and because Deshaun Watson is obviously a fantasy stud. The rest of the AFC South, though, wasteland for fantasy. It's crazy.
You mentioned
It
DGB.
really is.
I do have an autographed picture of DGB. If anyone wants it, just let me know. Hit me up on Twitter, and I'll send it to you for free. So,
You'll even pay for the shipping, right?
oh my gosh, yeah.
My sister met Dorial Green-Beckham in college.
$20 bill tucked in there too.
My sister met Dorial in college when she was at OU. My sister went to OU, and Dorial was at OU. She met him at a frat party. I probably shouldn't say this. I'm not going to.
We can stop there. We can talk about that some other time about the most some of the disappointing teams or people that we had, and DGB was one of those for me. Or later, I really thought he was going to do well, and boy, I think a lot of Titans fans were wrong on that one. Good grief.
I'm not taking the Colts. I'll take a shot at DJ Chark and Leonard Fournette on the Jags because I think their value to production is actually in sync. But everybody else on those teams, I couldn't even tell you the second wide receiver.
Leonard Fournette is
Minshew.
No, fuck him.
Leonard Fournette is the Josh Allen of running backs because he is not a good real life player, but he gets all of the volume in that system, and so he is a very draftable running back because he's going to get the ball a million times.
Because I don't even remember who it was, but in the article that I wrote that's coming out later today. I don't even remember who the guy behind him. It's kind of like a Todd Gurley situation in Atlanta. It's some fucking random guy you've never heard of. And then on top of that, he gets 100 targets in one season in the passing game. So if you're in PPR, Leonard Fournette in the third round, which is what he was going, which is always fluid whenever we record these podcasts. ADP is constantly fluid. But Leonard Fournette was going to the third round. That's pretty damn good value for someone who has the opportunity you're looking for.
He's sandwiched
is it great
between
and is
Gurley,
it sexy? No, it's not sexy. But
he's sandwiched between Gurley and Chris Carson right now in ADP.
I'd have both those people, but I'd have Fournette and Gurley over Chris Carson any day of the week. I'm staying away from
Fournette doesn't have the bad knees and that kind of thing, so he's probably a safer bet than Gurley or Carson.
For me in that range, I'm just looking at a different position because I don't want any of those running backs you just mentioned. I'd rather take my running back earlier, plan ahead, and go for somebody like Odell Beckham or Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, Adam Thielen compared to Leonard Fournette?
That's crazy.
That's not even questionable to me.
Third round for Adam Thielen, too. And he was a first-rounder last year. It's just like people forget because of one weird season. But was Thielen that bad last year? Did I miss something? I just thought he was always a wide receiver one.
Yeah, I'm taking Adam Thielen in this range.
I think we're seeing
he missed a lot of time last year, which is why he he was ranked so low.
I think we're seeing the roller coaster of the fantasy trend starting to take hold, where back in the early 2000s all the way into probably like 2010, 2011 was running back, right? That's what you went in the first 2 rounds. You went running back. And then all of a sudden, wide receivers started taking off, and everybody was like, oh, 0 running back strategy, blah, blah, blah. I think we're getting back into running back. Now, does that correlate with what the NFL's doing? I'm not totally sure, but I think that's – yeah, it kind of. I mean, I wouldn't put it out there that –
It correlates to the talent that has entered the NFL in the last, 4 drafts or so. McCaffrey, Saquon, Ezekiel Elliott, Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook. Like the top running backs, Joe Mixon, the top running backs in fantasy, Miles Sanders, I mean, go down the list, are the top running, like they're all in their first 5 years in the league still. So I think that's exactly what it is. The talented players come in the league.
So I think that's why Thielen and all these wide receivers are kind of good, crazy value. And I think that, follow the trend. I'm usually a buck the trend guy. Like, okay, if everybody else is going running backs, you better go wide receiver. Well, no, I think you should actually go running backs because you're actually going to find it hard to have good running backs, but you're still going to get top tier wide receivers even in that second tier wide receivers, right? Does that make sense?
Like Julio's going
the drop off is much less on wide receivers.
Julio's going 13th overall, and Julio's a good player, but Adam Thielen's going 33rd overall. Like, I would way rather take a running back at 13 overall and just get Adam Thielen at 33.
Well,
that's
and
about the AFC,
actually scores
right?
touchdowns. I mean,
these are
Jones,
AFC.
Yeah,
these are AFC players, right?
Yeah, Julio Jones is just essentially Allen Hurns because they walk away with the same amount of touchdowns every year.
He opted out. He actually opted out.
Real quick, Zach, were you thinking of Chris Thompson in Jacksonville?
No, is he in Jacksonville?
Raquel Armstead, hello.
Yeah, that's who the running back I saw.
Is there any other teams that we didn't at least mention?
Is Chris Thompson in Jacksonville? Did he follow Jay Gruden there?
Possibly. That's another reason. That's why I'm out on the Jags offense overall. Is just because Jay Gruden's gonna bench Leonard Fournette for trying to sleep with his side piece or something. No, thank you. I'm totally out.
Well, the good news is that Leonard Fournette can't even show up to team meetings, so there's no way he's gonna show up to a secret sex rendezvous.
Good point.
There's one team I don't even want to give you this because I'm so whatever. There's one team I'm surprised JG didn't mention more, and that was the Chargers. Unless I missed it because I've been asking audio.
We haven't touched on the Chargers, but we have touched on them on our rookie podcast, which we may or may not have released. But I'm out on the Chargers. I mean, Eckler is going to have production, but for the price, I don't know. The other receivers, with whoever the heck is throwing the ball, I guess we're going to assume it's Tyrod Taylor right now, but if Justin Herbert is the guy of the future, he could start at any time, and I have no confidence in him. I guess Hunter Henry has value, but bleh,
does he?
Thanks.
I mean, he's like
I'm not taking the chance.
Tight ends. Yeah,
right.
That's how I feel. Let other people draft people from these teams. Let people draft Cam Newton way too high, or even draft Sony Michel at some point, because let me tell you, it's not fun owning the Patriots running back.
Or Le'Veon Bell jumping to the Jets. Let someone take Le'Veon Bell 30-ish, which is where he's going right now. 36 right now, which is just terrible. Don't
just
draft
let
Le'Veon
other people
Bell
do it. Even if you see them there, if you see Keenan Allen in the 5th and you're like, well, he's not going to be there in the 6th, it's okay. Just pass on.
It's a good thing for you. You don't want him.
It really is. Just let someone else take that because you can get a better player that's actually going to produce.
Boom.
So make sure you listen to our experts here. Make sure that you're letting some of these guys slide. Grab the guys that we're recommending. You're going to have a great season if you do. And if you don't blame us. No, you're going to have a great season because, like Zach says, if he's not right, he'll correct himself before the end of his sentence. So, but we did cover all of our teams again. I do believe if we missed one, please call us out in the comments, tweet us, let us know. But that's going to do it for us this week. Remember to be sure and check out all the other podcast articles, content, Zach's articles, JG's articles, Greenlaw's articles that are on BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Also check us out on Twitter at BroadwayTN and the show at Flex on Broadway. Follow Zach at FWordsPod, JG at Titans Film Room, and Rob at Bob on Broadway. Bob on Broadway. I'll get it right one of these days. Follow Rob.
Blah, blah, blah.
Rob, blah, blah. See, that always plays in my head every time.
Bob, yeah.
Look, just look at it on YouTube. There's a big thing that says is
Yeah, there'll be a thing. Hold on, like right here-ish somewhere. So just check that out. Follow Broadway over on Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to rate and subscribe, you animals. So until next time, see y'all.
Peace.
Yeah, I'm cutting y'all off.
No,
Cutting y'all off. I don't care what
Miami.
you say.
We didn't talk about Miami.
Mike Gesicki actually might have
We
some.
did. We mentioned Miami. We glossed over it.
We didn't.
Yeah, I said Miami.
Devontae Parker. He had a pretty good end of the season.
Well, yeah, but no Albert Wilson. No, there's nobody
He
else
opted
there.
out.
Yeah, no Alan Hearns.
Matt Breida, we said we were going to talk about.
I will say I liked Matt Breida. That's it.
And we were going to talk about that other news.
You'll include this at the end, so whatever we talk about.
I know, I will.
Oh,
what was the
the
other
Lions, and we forgot about Ronald Jones.
Ronald Jones,
Ronald
but I'm not in on
Johnson,
Ronald
yeah.
Jones. Ronald Jones.
Ronald Jones.
Ronald
Listen,
Weasley is. I'm
RBC
totally
guy.
out on Ron Weasley because I just think that they didn't
Ronald
draft
Jones-
Keyshawn Vaughn to
Listen.
give the ball to Ronald Jones. Go ahead.
Ronald Jones. Listen, first off, Bruce Arians is not a fucking liar, and we learned that when he talked about Jameis Winston and Tom Brady.
That's fair.
Second off, Ronald Jones is going RB 30, and he ended the year as a starter. The weeks that he started all through the year, RB 19.
While you're
Okay, I
watching
just
this,
don't.
rate, subscribe, do all that. It's
Yeah,
fun.
hit that thumbs up on the YouTube.
Smash
guy.
it.
Oh. Hit that thumbs up on the YouTube guy. Yeah, smash that like button, baby. I'm not in on Ronald Jones because I don't think he's a talented player. Like, he's fast, and that's
Never
it.
say otherwise, bud.
Well, I'm not in on an RB 19. I'm in on the RB top
Wait.
10s, please.
What about
Listen,
Ron Weasley?
look
You were
right
talking
here
about
when
him a
you
second ago.
are-
Look, get Ron Weasley a broom,
when you're
and
last,
he's
you're
flying all
actually
over the
first.
field.
When you're
You
last, you're
know
actually
that's going to be.
first.
You know that's going to be edited or JG's always right or something on there. Zach,
If you're not
thanks for
first,
holding
you're
it.
last.
Did
Yeah.
you guys know what you were talking about?
I've had
with,
this little bug
Jarvis
behind me on
Landry
the
heroin
screen
thing?
the entire time.
I'm going to have to double the outro song, I think, because this is too much outro content.
Oh, are we actually putting all this in the
I don't know. I'm still
He's
recording.
recording.
He's,
Did you guys know what we were
he says he
talking about?
won't. Then we'll have this little snippet
I
at
did
the
not.
end that I'll be sure that whatever I said won't make it on there. And then next thing I know, he's got it in the cut.
So if you can, you got to get the picture of Jarvis pointing to his vein and put it on the YouTube clip so
And
people know
even if you
what
want to
the
put a
heck we're
needle
talking
and a
about.
strap on it, I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe I'll like.
Obvious Photoshop, like cartoon Photoshop.
Yeah, like I'll start with Jarvis there
And
without
James
that
is
stuff,
right.
and then I'll like have that stuff fly on in. Like I'll have the needle fly in and like stab his arm, and like stuff will shoot out, and then he'll like scream and writhe and agate. No,
And then no, put green veins on him like the Hulk.
Turn him into the Hulk.
His eyes turn green.
James
like
just
black.
animate a whole episode for us where it's just our stick characters talking to each other.
the extent of my
That's very
animation
cool.
abilities is like one hand comes up, and then the other hand comes up, and then the football comes up. That's as good as I can do.
Hey, you're a boss for that, man.
I like
A Broadway sports media production.